Breaking news.
Florida is asking Mexico for help. October 1st marks the day new laws go into effect in Florida. There are 30 in total, but some are more important than others. However, things aren't so good between the two governments right now, with tension between DeSantis and the Mexican president, Andrés Manuel López Obrador. These problems started after DeSantis signed a law against immigrants. Remember that the governor blamed López Obrador for the increase in undocumented immigrants in Florida. Things got worse when Pemex, Mexico's state-owned oil company, refused to sell fuel to Florida. This has caused energy problems in the state. Right now, Florida is dealing with a rebuilding crisis after all the damage from natural disasters, like hurricanes and heavy rains. DeSantis thinks Mexico holds the key to solving this problem. He wants to give visas to 150,000 Mexican workers to help rebuild the more than 2 million homes that were destroyed. With all this going on, it makes you wonder, would you be willing to go back to work in Florida for companies connected to Ron DeSantis? Here are the 5 key points about immigration in Florida. Florida asks Mexico for humanitarian aid. DeSantis has traveled to Mexico to get 150,000 work visas, hoping to bring in workers to rebuild the homes destroyed in Florida. However, many immigrants are refusing to return to the state because they were previously kicked out because of the immigration law DeSantis himself signed. 2 million homes to be built. Florida has about 2 million homes that need to be rebuilt. Many of them are abandoned or partially destroyed by recent natural disasters. The homes that were once occupied and maintained by immigrants are now neglected because of the anti-immigrant law, SB 1718. Immigrants are resisting. Immigrants who once worked in Florida are speaking out against this. They say that DeSantis, who kicked them out, is now facing the consequences of his actions. He desperately needs their labor to rebuild the state. Many immigrants believe they shouldn't return to Florida until SB 1718 is repealed in the Senate. They believe it's the only way they can return without fear of being deported. Visas offered, but with risks. Even though DeSantis is offering visas and good pay to attract Mexican workers, the anti-immigration law is still in effect. This means that, despite the promises, no one is safe from being deported. The fear continues for immigrants, who are wondering if it's safe to return to a state that already kicked them out once. Mexico in solidarity. Mexico has a history of standing with the United States in times of crisis, sending humanitarian aid when it's needed. However, many are questioning whether a governor like Ron DeSantis should be helped, especially since he himself could face deportation if he were ever in the United States illegally. Is it right for Mexico to help him when his anti-immigration policies have hurt the immigrant community so much? The impact of SB 1718 in Florida. When Ron DeSantis was elected governor, he had the support of many Latinos, including Cubans, who trusted his promises to improve the state. However, after SB 1718 passed, which made policies against undocumented immigrants stricter, things changed drastically. New immigrants, including many Cubans, are now facing challenges settling in Florida with their families. Those who once voted for DeSantis, thinking his policies would be good for their businesses, are now seeing those same businesses close and face bankruptcy. The anti-immigration laws have had a serious impact on Florida. The state's economy, which used to be one of the strongest in the U.S., has suffered huge losses. Several billionaires who had moved their company headquarters to Florida left the state when DeSantis started a feud with Disney. This also impacted the construction of theme parks. Even though DeSantis has introduced other laws like traffic law reforms, the law that has hurt the state the most is SB 1718. It has cost Florida about $13 billion a month. Multiply that by 12, and you get a massive number that shows the negative impact of this policy. Should immigrants return to Florida? Whether immigrants should return to Florida is still a hot topic. Even though DeSantis is offering good pay and visas, the reality is that the anti-immigration law is still in place. Even if immigrants help rebuild the destroyed homes, there's a concern that once the state is back on its feet, DeSantis could put new measures in place to deport them. Also, many of the homes that were left half-built when immigrants left haven't been finished. Local companies have tried to hire unskilled workers to continue the work, but these workers don't have the necessary experience. In many cases, the construction has been poorly done. This poses significant risks for the future, as the houses might not withstand future storms or hurricanes. The resistance from immigrants is understandable. Many of them feel they were unfairly kicked out, and now the state that needed them so much is paying the price. Additionally, some fear that if they return to work in Florida, they could be deported again, or even not receive the pay they were promised once they finish the work. Political influence in Florida. Ron DeSantis' actions are having political consequences too. Many immigrants who once voted for him are now saying they won't support him in future elections. Even Donald Trump, who considered DeSantis as a potential running mate in the next presidential campaign, has started to distance himself from the governor. Trump realized that if he kept DeSantis as an ally, he could lose support in Florida, which would give the Democrats a significant advantage in the upcoming elections, possibly paving the way for Kamala Harris to become the first female president of the United States. The situation in Florida is critical. The state desperately needs the help of immigrants to recover, but Ron DeSantis' policies have created a barrier that's tough to overcome. Mexico, as a country that believes in solidarity, is facing a complicated decision. Should it send humanitarian aid to a governor who has enacted laws so harmful to the immigrant community? Moreover, the immigrants who once contributed to Florida's prosperity must now decide if it's safe and beneficial to return under these uncertain circumstances. In short, Florida's immigration policy has left the state at a crossroads. Without the support of immigrants, Florida can't move forward. The question remains, who will decide to change course? The relationship between Mexico and the United States is like a really complex dance, with economic, political, and social interests all intertwined. Now, with the crisis in Florida, this relationship is being put to the test once again. Mexico, with its growing influence in Latin America, has the chance to show its solidarity. But it's also facing pressure to protect its people abroad. The Biden administration is watching closely, because they know what happens in Florida could have ripple effects across the country. Could this conflict be the push needed to take a hard look at U.S. immigration policies? Or will it just be another chapter in the long history of friction between the two countries? Meanwhile, immigrants are caught in the middle of this geopolitical whirlwind, waiting for decisions that could change their lives. Cooperation between Mexico and the United States is not only key to solving the crisis in Florida, but also for setting a precedent of collaboration in times of need. In this uncertain landscape, one thing is clear. The relationship between Mexico and the United States will continue to be a defining factor in the politics and economy of the region.